Hey guys, Thomas Busby here again with another lens review. Today we're looking at what might be the most important lens in this wide angle lens review series, the Fujifilm 16mm f1.4. So straight away let's deep dive into sharpness, maybe the most important factor in deciding a good wide angle lens. When it comes to center sharpness, the 16mm 1.4 falls just short of perfection throughout most of the aperture range. This is only by the smallest of margins, but many of the other wide angle lenses do get that perfect center sharpness. Though don't get me wrong, this is still an amazing result. However, when it comes to corner sharpness though, this is where things get mind-blowing. How sharp the corners are at f1.4 is incredible. But what truly makes this lens tower over all the others is that from around the f4.5 to f10, no other lens I have tested, including the ones I haven't released videos for yet, have got close to perfection sharpness on the corners like the 16mm f1.4. And while center sharpness might be lacking, we'll say that final 3% of sharpness, its corner sharpness is in a whole other league compared to everything else available, making it the sharpest wide angle lens available from Fujifilm. And that's a truly impressive score, to get that perfect sharpness on corners when I didn't think that was possible after testing all the other lenses. That's a mind-blowing result. Now next is on to value. Now it actually sits right in the middle of the pack. You can get more expensive lenses, you can get cheaper lenses, but considering how sharp this lens is, as a consumer, I think this lens is actually perfectly priced and valued. It sits right where it should be. Value is spot on, though like I said, you can still get cheaper options. Okay, let's smash through a couple of the different features. It is a 67mm lens cap or screw-on filter. It has an adjustable focus ring, so you can shift that back no matter what mode you're in to get into a manual focus and adjust that to suit your taste with the little hyperfocal calculator. Can you see that? Hyperfocal calculator on the top of the lens there. It has the aperture ring. It is f1.4, which is truly crazy bright. It is weather sealed, which I love. Astronomical work with condensation, sea spray, waterfalls, any type of emotional weather out in the rain, etc. This lens is going to handle it. It is not stabilized, which I'm not sure if you would need at f1.4 that wide. I don't think stabilizer is a biggie when it comes to wide angle lenses, but for video work say it's lacking that feature. But once again, 1.4 kind of makes up for it and does keep it quite small and light. Now on the subject of size and weight, this is once again kind of in that middle of the pack range. I don't think it's too big. Say compared to the 14mm, which is a similar kind of lens, that is definitely smaller and lighter, and it does, like I said, sit in that middle range. Personally, now my personal opinion doesn't affect the final score at the end of this video, but I think this is the perfect size and weight for any lens. It fits in your hand quite nicely. As far as holding it with letting go of the camera body, it feels comfortable. It's not crazy heavy, but it could be lighter. So even the 16mm or some of the XC lenses are very, very light. And when you're hiking, when you're going to a destination, the lighter, the smaller it is, the further you can go, the more energy you have when you get there. So size and weight is important, and I think this is close to perfection for how bright, how sharp, how light, and how small this lens is. Its size and weight is, well, it's in the middle of the pack. It's I think as good as you can get without being unrealistic with your expectations. Lens flaws and astronomical performance. Okay, so for those of you that haven't already seen my best Fuji lens for astronomical photography, check out the link up here or down in the description below. But spoiler alert, the end of that is the Fuji 16mm f1.4 is the best lens you can get for astronomical photography. However, after I made that video, I received quite a few comments and people expressing their dislike for the 16mm range, either saying it wasn't wide enough or it was too wide for their taste. So for those of you that have that concern, it's a personal preference. I'm sorry, I can't measure how wide or how close you like to shoot, so that can't be a factor in determining how good a lens is. What its phenomenal score of 759, what the 16mm f1.4 score of 759 represents is how much light, how much detail, and how little flaws this lens can resolve from the night sky when shooting, especially say the Milky Way. And it is, without a doubt, unarguably the best astronomical lens you can get for the Fujifilm system that I've tested so far, But that also includes the Samyang 12mm f2, which sits in second place, which is a very cheap option, but this here is the king of astro for the Fujifilm wide angle option list. Now for those of you that like pixel peeping like me and are wondering about the aberration performance of the 16mm f1.4, it goes like this. At 16mm, if you come in just a little bit from the edge, its aberrations at 1.4 to f1.6 are at 0.7%. From f1.8 they are 0.6%, at f2 they are 0.4%, and from f2.2 onwards they are 0.3%, which is what I'd consider perfect. Anything less than 0.3% is actually eating into the size and shape of your star, and so you don't want that. And for those that don't know, anything greater than 1.0% is considered really bad. I wouldn't recommend any lens with an aberration score of 1.0%, and this here, there's some sweet spots. You can do that little bit of juggling of brightness, ISO versus aberrations yourself to work out what suits you. However, if you have this lens and you're kind of just getting new to astronomical photography and shooting the Milky Way, feel free to head over to my website or my Instagram page and screenshot, download, save, whatever you need to do of this cheat sheet so you can have it on your phone when you're out there shooting astro photos for the best recommended starting settings when doing astrophotography. However, as you get more and more into astronomical photography, you might want to change your aperture a little bit darker, you might want to go a little bit shorter of a shutter speed. This will all require a little bit more knowledge in noise reduction and sharpening and editing, but to start with, that cheat sheet, awesome place to get going. On to video performance. So as far as sharpness and low light goes, this lens is phenomenal. You are going to need a variable ND filter. As you can see on the screen here, this is with my studio light as dark as it can go, and at f1.4 I'm still getting zebra highlight warnings turning up telling me my shot is a little bit too bright. And as far as AF performance goes, I actually think that much cheaper 16mm f2.8 is a better option at 16mm for video. It's not as bright, but its AF performance is definitely better. The 16mm f1.4, it does make a little bit of noise as it focuses, and it's not a biggie. You probably better get around it by having, say, an external microphone, say lapel or off-camera shotgun, but in quieter situations you are going to hear this lens making that little bit of a focus, and its autofocus does seem a little bit, just a smidgen sluggish as well, especially compared to the much newer 16mm f2.8. This lens is nowhere near as good as the 16mm f1.4, except for when it comes to video. I think the 16mm f2.8 might be the winner in that area, but it's still a phenomenal lens. If you're shooting manual focus, if you're shooting in low light, 16mm 1.4, awesome lens, but be aware of some of those video flaws. Just like a lot of the other older Fujifilm lenses, the newer 2.8 lenses are better AF performance, but still doesn't mean you can't get phenomenal results with the older 1.4, 1.2 lenses. So adding up the values of sharpness, aperture, price, weight, wideness, versatility, features and flaws, and running them all through the TB photography algorithm, the Fuji on a spherical 16mm f1.4 weather resistant lens gets a mind-blowing score of 74.14, putting it leagues ahead of any other option I have tested so far. Factors like it being the sharpest lens I've tested so far, it being the top of the Astro list, even compared to the Samyang 12mm f2, it being reasonably priced, it being very nice in the size and weight category, this lens, not surprising at all, is by a long shot the best wide-angle lens I have tested so far. But just in case that isn't enough for you, if you use this lens just between f4.5 to f9, it gains an extra 5 points, bringing the score up to 79.94, making it the new benchmark lens to try and pass, and truly an impressive score for anyone considering this option. Now, before anyone jumps into the comment section and say you don't feel this lens is wide enough, or you prefer the 23 or the 35mm look, those are personal preferences and not something I can measure. This score and this final result is measured on everything measurable I can come up with from the 16mm f1.4. But I will agree that this isn't the best wide-angle lens for every single situation available, and that the best wide-angle lens available for every single situation can't and never will exist. And in my opinion, getting too caught up in scores and pixel peeping is maybe the greatest way to kill inspiration and creativity. And that the best wide-angle lens you can get is the one that you have on you when you are out there taking photos. Not the one that you're waiting to be released or waiting to buy while at home doing nothing. As always, guys, thank you so much for following along. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments below. Even just a statement, I always love hearing from you and your support. If you could like, share and subscribe, I always love it. Thank you very much, and until next time, I'll catch you next time.